As we start off with our introduction to the basics, let's remember that through our great partnership with Paragon, we're able to let you log in one place with one username and password and have access to both CRS data as well as Paragon. So there's no need to have a separate login. Let's start by just going through where you're going to find us if you hadn't already heard. On the right-hand side through the market monitor, you'll see that you can quickly go into what Bob calls his spreadsheet views. And let's start by tapping on new. When I tap on the new under the market monitor, I very quickly am put into that spreadsheet view, which is easy to manipulate, easy to research. And I understand that there's information here that can be of benefit to me. How do I find beyond Paragon? We used to call them Skittles, action icons, if you will. They've changed their look a bit, and now it is a plug. And I say it plugs you into yet another way to help you throughout your day gather information. So mine are in the center of the screen. You can drag and drop and put yours where you will, but either way, that plug is action icons. So you're going to plug into what we refer to as integrated tools, if you will. When I tap on that plug, I am sent over to those integrated tools. CRS has been afforded the ability to have a little real estate on this pop-up that shows us that you can do a quick CMA from here. You can even go in and see demographics. Now, keep in mind, this is related to the subject property you're looking at. So on the line you're looking at, you're able to go ahead and have the system open up demographics. There are two more in that are used most often. Most people want to know, where's that property in relationship to a shopping center, a park, a place of employment. Maybe it is just a point of interest, but this will be a single click and it will pop that property on a map so you can get a visual of where that is located. The last section gives you a quick link to what we're known for, which are our property reports. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. I'll remind you that our property reports are set up in a way that they're ready for your client. You don't have time to go in and have to take information and put it in a very tasteful format. I'm going to do that for you. Of course, we all know that clerks and assessors across the state of Oregon, as well as into Washington, you may know the dial system. You may be able to navigate the dial system back and forth and sideways. But unfortunately, even dial has a lot of great information. It's just not set up in a client-ready report. So I'm doing that heavy lifting for you. I'm making it be so that it looks like you've spent hours navigating, gathering information, and then putting together a very tasteful piece where your client can review the property data details. So keep that in mind as we go just a bit further into CRS data today. Now, beyond that, where else would one find CRS data? Well, why, of course, across the top of the menu button where you see tax. Tapping on the tax icon takes you directly to CRS Tax, where we can start a simple search, an advanced search, or even a map search. Keep in mind, I always shout out, there are some of us that are simple and it works. Some of us may be a little extra, might be me, maybe not. Either way, some people like maps. So the thing is, we're all slightly different, and that's what makes this world work. Right? None of us are the same. No MLSs speak the same language. No individual real estate professionals are going to attack real estate in the same way. So we have to understand that CRS Tax Search or CRS data understands the need to do end user customizations. And I'm going to give you all kinds of options today. Our simple search screen. Whatever feels better for you, call it what you will. And let's start by getting some of the housekeeping things out of the way. From this simple search screen, we want to keep in mind that I've just explained that I am aware that no two people do real estate exactly the same. We all have different requirements and needs when it comes to assessing and navigating the product. At the top of the screen, you'll notice the MLS tax suite is displayed, telling you that it is indeed not powered by Black Knight. It's not powered by anybody in this room. It's powered by CRS Data. Who cares? I care, but your clients won't. So I want you to know that it is within your means to go in and modify and insert your own personal branding to the top of every report and any document you're going to pull from CRS. The way you're going to do that is you're going to tap on profiles and settings. And when you do, you are or have been granted access to the profiles and settings that are all applicable to you. From here, there are a lot of things you can do to customize, and I won't go through each and every one of those today, but I want you to be aware as you scroll through profiles and settings, it's just the beginning when I tell you to go in and brand the software. Branding can mean a headshot. It can mean a beautiful photo of the area you come from and why you want to encourage buyers to move to Portland and the surrounding areas. It may be the front of your office. It may be something very personal about you that connects you with why that buyer or seller should reach out to you. There's something about you that is inviting and makes me feel like you are going to be my real estate professional for life. It's important, right, to have the FaceTime with your clients. And right now we don't get FaceTime right out of the gate. We throw around telephone numbers, email addresses, and names. And oftentimes it's a little while before you have time to put eyes on that person that's going to help you find the next new home of your dreams. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot to be said for having that visual. So put your headshot or put something about you on the top of these documents. It is all about being super personal. From there, we'll talk a little bit. Like I said, it's hard for me. I'm a talker and I love the product and I love the people, but I could talk hours on this product. So it's hard for me not to get way in the weeds, but I'm going to try to at least send you out the door without feeling like you've been sprayed with a fire hose. All right. But this profiles and settings has so many things that you can customize. Just a few. Talk about default county search. You know where you work most frequently. You know where it is that your territory or where you focus the most. So in default county search settings, it's a good time to say, since you get the whole state of Oregon and you get 8 counties in Washington state, there may be 4 or less that you focus on most often. Setting the default county search up will allow you to focus on those 4. And then if you want to add a county or remove or exchange one when you're doing a search, it's easier. You have a starting point that is applicable to you and your business. Beyond that, we talked about simple or extra or advanced or map searching. Here's where you can identify, what do you most often find yourself doing? Do you look at a map and use the knowledge about the area to find the homes or the buyers and sellers or areas you want to market yourself to? When using the tax suite, use this search settings under profiles and settings to identify what you by default or what you'd rather start with. There's no need in starting with a simple search if you'll never use it. Change this to map search if that's what you'd prefer. Just make sure when you go through this, you save these settings. Not a one and done, because just like me, I change my mind often and I reserve the right and I take ownership to changing my mind throughout the day. So many times it makes my friends and family's head spin. Who cares? I don't have to apologize for that. That is just being me, doing me, and getting the job done. And I know that's what you're all about as well. So choose that search setting, change your mind 6 more times today. The system will allow you to do that. Make sure again that you save those. Beyond that, let's just remind you that results are results. I can change them up, swap them out, and put them in a different order, make them look different based on what you're used to seeing. So when tapping on custom results list, when doing a search, you're able to tell the system what type of results you want, what fields of data you're going to gain or gather from me, and in what order you want those. There are 58 or more fields of data in the tax records. Between the clerk and the assessor, it's probably tons more than you will ever find yourself needing all at one time. This allows you to go in and tell us what you want and drag and drop it in the order in which you want it, so you don't have to skim or use something that is not the way you'd like to see the data, right? So you've got customization when it comes to data. And why not give you an option between a simple view and a custom view while we're at it, okay? So let's jump into some more of the tax product. By tapping on back to previous page, I'm back at that simple search screen. We got out of the way all but one thing as far as housekeeping is concerned, because as many times as Bob and I will be online offering more tips and tricks to you, not only today, but into the future, there's always an opportunity that you may not, or we may not talk about something that you had a question about. Remember, this help tab is content responsive. It will lead you to the page in which you're viewing. So in performing a simple property search, by tapping help, I get help or quick tips on how do I do this? What do I do next? And what am I looking for? You'll have videos and articles along with additional useful help tools inside of the MLS Tax Suite Help Center. Let's not forget, CRS Data provides end user support, and so does RMLS. So between the two groups, we've got you covered. We're going to be there for you as you learn this new product and realize why we've put so much time and effort into making sure we scream from the rooftops and let you know this is a product, or these are products that will change the way you do business. As I go back up, let's go back into that simple search screen and let's talk about doing some simple searching. Tap in the county box and allow the system to display for you that statewide data in Oregon, as well as I scroll down to the bottom, the counties that I'm giving you in Washington as well. You can choose up to 4 counties to search by. If you're looking for areas and they're counties that butt up to one another, or you just want to focus on one county, it's really up to you what you do. When you make the selection of what counties you want to search in, then the system will start that search based on what you're searching for. Notice in this simple search screen environment, I'm giving you an option to search for name, address, subdivision, parcel ID, and MLS number. So it's a simple 5 questions here, right? 5 fields that you're going to look at. I don't need all of that information. I just need you to start typing and commit to a simple search. And simple searching means just simply typing, allowing me to do the heavy lifting and you to breathe easy, knowing that I'm giving you what you're asking for. At this point, I typed in 4 simple letters, L-A-K-E. With that, I'm giving you owner names, I'm giving you streets, and I'm giving you subdivisions that start with those letters, L-A-K-E. Pretty simple. Then it's all about, do I want to choose an owner to see a property? Do I want to choose a street to see a property, or the properties? Because obviously there's not just one home on Lake Bay Court, or we would expect, although there are streets out there that only have one home built on them, and maybe it's a property that is in, maybe it's a planned unit development that's just started. It's a street, it has one home, so you're going to find one house there. If you tap on a subdivision, same thing goes. We would hope that there's more than one home recorded in that subdivision, but by tapping on the subdivision, you're going to get all homes that are recorded in that subdivision. Next to each one of these buckets, whether it's owners, streets, or subdivisions, you'll notice the View More key. View More just means that if there were more, you would see more of these properties or these subdivisions or these owners. That doesn't mean you'll always see more. My goal is to not fill the page and require you to scroll. So if I tap on a street address and tap on View More, I'll get a longer list of streets that start with the word lake. If I want to return to full options, I get those full options back and I can continue to navigate within my potential matches here. If I tap on Lake Forest, I'm going to get directed into all properties that are recorded in Lake Forest subdivision. Here are your results. When looking at results, there's a few things that we want to make sure that we point out or identify. There are 547 properties in Lake Forest. I know this because I'm going to display how many properties I should be seeing. Moving from left to right, I know that the icons across the top of the screen are going to reference all properties that I find in the clerk and the assessor records that also are for sale, sold, pending, expired, or even leased. If there's no icon, it means I'm not finding a coordinating record inside of the MLS, which all properties aren't there. Moving all the way over to the right, I see saved results. So if I don't know what I want to do with all of these properties at this point, I can clearly just save these results for later when I've got more time to deal with or prospect to or look more closely at the data in this subdivision. As I scroll down a bit further, notice again, as we move back to the left side of the screen, I can modify my results using the left-hand panel. As we move again to the right-hand side of the screen, I see that I have an option to see these properties in a map view. Calling out those of you who are visual, a simple click will give you a map view. And in profiles and settings, if you prefer the map view, you can set that up by default so you don't have to turn it on each time. As that map view opens, you'll notice that properties are identified on the map. I can stall or hover over top of these property indicators to get additional property data details. I also have a toolbar going down the right-hand side of the map. The toolbar, again, if I was skimming on it, you'll start to notice the ability to pan in and out. The gear will give you a chance to change your view. So views are important. It's all about what's easiest for you. Who cares what Nikki Morgan's doing, right? If my boring road view doesn't work for you, and by all means you live in Oregon, I'm having a hard time not looking out the window where I'm standing in a conference room because of the beautiful trees outside the window that are changing colors. I want to look across and realize the topo is something I'm not used to, the elevation, the mountains, all that good stuff. So why wouldn't I think that you may approach your map views in an aerial direction versus my boring road views? You have control and you can change it here. You can change it through your profiles and settings. Again, this is your system built for our MLS and customizable for you, each and every one of you. I can draw on the map. As Bob said, quick draw makes you or gives you an opportunity to uncover additional data, just like a great set of readers, right? I'm using a magnifying glass, which that's exactly in essence what my readers are. And I'm able to draw a polygon using that magnifying glass or even a rectangle or radius or freehand to tell the system, I want to see beyond those parcel lines. I need to see more data, more detail, and I need to get beyond just those parcel lines. Measuring each individual parcel, how big is one lot compared to the other? What's the distance to and from that park or that point of interest? Along with how much grass do I have to mow? How much is natural area and how far away is that neighbor? Again, these are questions that your buyer may be asking you. It's an important question if they've stopped and put it on their list of must-haves. And I'm going to empower you with all of the power to uncover or give them the answers to their questions using CRS data. Okay, so simple questions seem crazy, but why not be the first one to run forward with an answer? As I scroll down a bit, let's talk about the data. We did a simple search, and here are simple results. Simply giving you an address, Lake Oswego, parcel, owner, subdivision, and then lot number if there is one. Keep in mind, folks, I'm not forgetting something if there's no subdivision. It may be that this parcel isn't recorded in a subdivision or there isn't a lot. But at this point, just know that you're looking at simple results. As designed, you're going to get the simple results based on what's available here. All right. If I wanted to see the entire property report, I could tap on the address and see that property report. If I wanted to move over to the property report, there's also an arrow that points off to my right that will give me the ability to do that as well. And as we skim or scan this page and get to know what is a default setting and what is custom to you, let's look at the fact that I'm looking at simple results, but there's a key that says custom results. Where do those come from? If there were a ton of people in the room, which I appreciate everybody's here, I'd say to you, custom results, where would you expect those to come from? Your response would be profiles and settings, because custom results are set up by you through profiles and settings. So you choose which fields of data you want to display when doing your results. Scrolling down through, again, the check, you'll notice when we give you property data, there's always a box in front of the property data. The reason for that is at this point, all you did was ask me for all properties in this subdivision. I've given them to you. I've given you a ton of pages that you can scroll through. I've given you the ability to tap to view more than 15 results at a time. And now at this point, you may want to exclude or remove or just decide how many of these 547 properties you really intended to do something with. So you may have got more than you expected, and you may want to refine by checking boxes. You can not only check the boxes that you'd like to keep, but you could, in fact, check the boxes that you want to remove. I'm going to give you both options. Whatever's easier for you, that's my goal. My goal is to bring you great data, an easy to use resource so that you can get back out and put your boots on the ground, selling, listing, doing everything that I depend on you to do, because by no means do I want you to have to spend too much time in front of the computer. Let's make it super easy. All right. So at this point, I checked a few boxes and I want to keep those. And very quickly, it gave me just what I've asked to keep. And it modified my map. I can hover or stall and get to additional property details. And then from there, let's just talk about what else I may want to do with this data. I can create labels from here, scrolling back up to the top of the document and then back to search gives me the ability to show you just a few additional things in regards to searching and how simple that can be. We went into Lake Forest. Now, if I back out of Lake Forest, let me show you a little tip. When looking for property data details, I don't often remember everything. And If you want to tell me you do, I will believe you. But right now I'm going to say to you, oftentimes I remember a portion of information. If somebody tells me their name is Leroy, I may only remember Lee and not the Roy part, and I need to be able to search for him, right? I may call you Justin and I find out, 6 months later that your name is not Justin, your name is Justin Lee or Tanner Lee. And I've been searching for information and I only had part of what I needed. So keep in mind that when searching, we did Lake, gave me all properties that started with Lake. If I go back in and put in a percentage sign, I can search for anything that I know is part of the property data details. If I type in Lake, I'm getting Blake, I'm getting Blake Lee, I am getting Lake Forest, I'm getting Summer Lake, I'm getting all interpretations using those letters in that order somewhere in the name. Little additional trick, percentage sign. Have you ever been looking for properties that are owned by an LLC? Percentage sign LLC brings me the owner names that contain LLC. Now I've uncovered properties that are owned by an LLC. What about looking for properties that are bank owned? Percentage sign gives me owner names, and those owner names happen to, in some cases, be banks, Bank of America. I mean, it could be Lee Banks, or it could be Bank of America, or it could be Bank Lewis, or a association of unit owners of Bankside. We can only expect that this would be powerful when looking for data when you don't have as much information as you thought. Just a good tip. All right, so we've done some searching. Now let's jump in and let's do a little bit, very little, of the advanced search and map search, just so that you're introduced. Tapping on advanced and map search. If you decide after seeing this today, you want your advanced search or your map search to start off as your primary, then you're going to go to profiles and settings and set it up. You'll always still have access to simple. It's just a matter of what comes up first. When you go into the grocery store, if you want to hit the bread and milk first, you go into a certain door that's closer, same concept. I want to walk through the door, and if I need to get in and out, that's the door I'm going to go into if I want just bread and milk. All right. So looking at this, here are my counties. This is where I choose what counties I want to search in, or I've set up my by default counties in my profiles and settings. Still with the ability to remove or change or swap out if I want to choose a different county. Then let's talk about the map. I love map searching. I don't have to think as hard about it because I know the area and I'm familiar with what I'm looking for. Notice still the right-hand side gives me that toolbar that I'm used to, knowing that I can measure parcels and I can draw, knowing that I can change my views and even pan in or out, just knowing that this map is going to grow on me. It's going to be second nature. By the time you're done spending a day with me, you're going to realize that little pieces of knowledge all brought together to know that anytime CRS throws a map at me, I know what to do with it or what I can do with it. In this installation, I'd like to go ahead and tap on View Larger Map at the bottom right-hand corner. And when I do, it's going to open up just that, pretty easy, a larger map. Toolbar on the upper right-hand corner gives me power and ability to get in and do more, but we're going to know that as we go through. Now I can start to search using the map, using only the things I'm looking for. So let's play with this a bit. I can scroll through and tap and type in the minimums and the max as far as last sales price. Or if I'd rather drag and drop, and that works better for me, I could drag and drop to identify the range or the idea of price range that I'm looking for as far as the last sales price and date. And just like with Paragon, I'm getting clusters of homes that meet that criteria. After all, I've not done a whole lot here, but I also, hands up in the air, haven't clicked enter, haven't clicked submit. It's all about just the action of dragging and dropping. brings this map or makes this map come alive. Now, beyond that, I can add appraised value as well as last transfer date. Even owner names, if I wanted to be crazy, I could go ahead and say out of these 5,000 plus properties, I'm looking for anybody with an owner name of Smith, right? I'm not sure I would ever do that, but why not know that I could if I wanted to? Scrolling further down, I know that I could continue to refine my details. I could say, out of these 5,000 plus, I only want absentee owners that happen to be out of state. And you'll see how quickly my results are modified. My map will react. It will start to break apart those clusters. And now I'm starting to see more results. I'm starting to see areas that I can hover or stall when it comes down to just one property being available. And I can continue to work through this map. If I'm looking for only vacant land, folks, let's not forget there's always an easy button when it comes to vacant land. I don't need to beg for those results. I want an easy button. I'm too busy to have to fill out a form that looks like an application for employment. So keep in mind, these are the easy buttons that you'll want to know exist. Right down to acreage. If I'm looking for a specific acreage range and I want between 20 or 18 and a half and 43 acres, notice the map just reacted to me just that quickly. Hover or stall and then be able to see additional data details. Note that my properties now with those requirements are down to just a small 53 compared to the more than 5,000 I had originally. So if that doesn't tell you something, that being visual, knowing your area and utilizing the filters will give you what you need very, very quickly based on your needs. Now, at this point, let's not forget that I didn't do square footage. I didn't do bedrooms. I didn't do baths. I didn't do acreage or year built or whether it has a basement or not. That's all for you to decide. When looking for data, it's all about the options that'll help you get your results quickly. And that's what this is about. Now, I'm not going to show you these CRS map layers right this minute, but I will. And then you'll be able to identify when CRS offers you map layers, the power that lies inside of the map layers. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But at this point, if I want to see these results, all I do is tap on view results. And then you're familiar with this already. You know what it looks like when I give results. I give you the number of results. I'm going to go ahead and pull in Bob's information, what properties out of this list are for sale or sold or pending or expired. I know that I can still hover or stall over property data details. I know that I can toggle between simple results and custom results if I've chosen to create them. I know as I scroll through, I can pan and select by property or by page. I can check properties that I don't want to look at or know more about. And let's not forget, anytime you do see those icons, you can hover and get additional data details from Bob. So Paragon is always going to be right on my right side. We're always going to make sure that if I find it in the clerk and the assessor, and I also find a coordinating record in Paragon, I'm going to let you know it's there. I'm going to give you easy access to that data so you're not looking around for it. You don't have time for that. Let me be your full solution. Let me round out your day in a way that at the end of the day, you have something left to give to your friends and family because I've made it a bit easier, okay? So scrolling again back to the top and then back to search. As we went through and did a simple search, we did an we did a simple search and a map search. What's left? Let's talk about advanced. Advanced searching. The only way I know to explain it is it's like an application for employment. Or back in the day when I talked to a buyer or a client about buying a house and we got out the manila sheet of paper or pad rather. And I think 4 or 5 pages in on the must-haves, right? It must have carpet and it must have 42-inch white raised panel cabinets and it must have a knee wall and it must, you go on. And then you take that list and you refine it by these things we can make happen. Let's make sure the bones of the house are good, right? Is it 1 story? Is it 2? Because we need to be looking for the bones. And then everything else is fairly doable. So in this situation, when using, if you choose to use an advanced search, only fill out the information that is most useful for your search, all right? Now, the biggest thing here is it's broken down by criteria or subjects or areas of the property data details, starting with location, including census tract, street name, school zones or subdivisions, keeping in mind, I'm always doing the heavy lifting because you don't need to be. There's something I get paid for that happens to be it. Let me lift, you just receive the data. Type and hold and let us offer you opportunities for correct matches. If you're looking for subdivisions that start with lake, let me tell you what I've got and then choose from those subdivisions. If I decide to not search location or do search location, I can also add to that property values. Notice that the submit button is going to float from the top to the bottom of the screen. When you go place an order in Amazon, you might be in the home improvement section. You may be searching for food. You may be searching for, I don't know, cleaning products, etc. But when you check out of Amazon, you're checking out once. You're putting your credit card in once and you're checking out when you're ready. This search is just like going to any other store. You're not expected to buy things as you move from department to department. You are expected to check out just once. I want you to check out to look for your results just once. The submit button will start your search and gather everything you filled out on this page to do one single search. So if I add property values or check the exclude multiple parcel sales box here, and then decide to go add property characteristics, knowing that you're getting industrial, commercial, residential, agricultural, all types of properties, I'd make sure you're looking for the property and add residential here if that's what you're looking for. If you want a home that was built in 2000, but you're not worried about it's only 2000 to 2005, it's the only home I'm looking for, you don't have to fill out the minimum or the maximum here. Just fill out what's important. If you're looking for vacant land, there's that quick button again. If there's nothing else I want to do here, I can add owner profiles. Let's look for absentee owner, happens to be out of state. And now as I get ready to do my search, do I also want to use Bob at the MLS side? Do I want Paragon's information? Do I want my results to be refined by only those that are also active in the MLS, or also pending in the MLS, or also expired in the MLS? By checking these boxes, I'm going to refine the results I return to you based on MLS statuses as well. Okay, check nothing, get all data that matches your search regardless of MLS status. Check MLS listing status and I will refine based on the statuses you have elected. And then it's all about clicking submit on the bottom of the page, anywhere on the middle of the page, even scrolling right back up to the top of the page and using that submit button. My system doesn't care. I just want to cooperate with your need to submit after you've reviewed what you're looking for to make sure that you've covered all your bases. So submit anywhere on the page. Don't fill out everything on the page. Less is more when searching for tax records. All right, now, what do we do when we get to a point where we want to look at a great property report? When I tap on the property, you're going to notice that we are taking Paragon and we're taking all the clerk and assessor data. This is what we talked about in the beginning. We get all the information, not through a magic plug in the wall, but there is a bit of creativeness that goes into putting it all in this great format. And we also pull in Paragon, bringing in property reports with photos, if in fact it's in the MLS. Links to and from Paragon can be found just about anywhere here, along with maps and lot dimensions. Let's not forget, when you see those great icons showing you that the property is in the MLS, you hover or stall and you have links back to that listing data. We're going to pull you location information and property summaries. The blue bars are going to be links to additional information like the GIS site or to view the county property search site. I'm bringing you a ton of data, but that doesn't mean there's something you very uniquely go out to grab and provide to your client. So in most cases, I've given you links so that you have access to that. Bringing you school zone information along with sales history, you notice was updated just last Friday, so we are on top of it. Bringing you not only the sales history from the recent sale, which happened July 2021, but back to 1998 in this situation. Tax assessment and taxes, along with mortgage history, and even links to additional mortgage and trust details. Don't be afraid while using your free trial period to tap through and understand the valuable layers and layers of information offered here. Property characteristics, along with extra features, lot, utilities, and area. Let's not forget about legal description, important facts on FEMA flood zones, and even links out to the firm panel ID, where I'll give you access to revisions, revalidations, and modifications if there are any filed for that property. Listing archive. Why not, right? Bob's everywhere I'm at. That's why we show up in the same places, singing the same song, easy to access data, two companies integrated to provide a great solution for you. And in this case, these are links right back to every time this property has been in the MLS. Why not read agent remarks and make yourself aware of anything that may have happened in or with this property leading up to this most recent listing of the property. The bottom of the page gives you the ability to save, email, and print. And let's not forget that most recently, we've actually added the translation so that we can get this property report translated in Spanish, so that you are having the ability to get additional translations. This will be the first of many you'll see, okay? So as I scroll back up to the top, let's not forget about facts and figures. Again, just another way that we offer you things like subdivision information, demographics, and such. These reports are ready for you. You don't have to do all the hard work here, knowing that you have all of this great data at the tips of your fingers. Now let's go ahead and scroll down to tap on View Larger Map. When we do, this will pretty much send you into the map world as far as CRS data is concerned. Inside the map world, you'll start to learn those words, CRS map layers. Inside of CRS map layers, you're going to be able to turn on great useful information on the maps. So keep in mind, I went ahead to save time and turned on some layers that are easy for you to reference so that we didn't have to wait for those to load. Looking at the map, if you will, for our subject property, which again is at 3250 Upper Drive in Lake Oswego, we want to notice that the address is across the top of the map. It gives me the address. It goes ahead and gives me the city, state, and zip, along with that parcel ID. Now, to the far left-hand side of the screen, you see the small arrows that are pointed back to the center. I've got those minimized. Again, you will enter the map in this way. Now, just to remind you, the map inside of the property report won't allow you the ability to do those map layers. So you do want to click on view larger map to get to this point. When you do, you tap on those two very small layers or arrows to open up CRS map layers. Again, these map layers are available to you every time you land on a map in CRS Data. So you'll be able to build on your knowledge by knowing what the CRS map layers are and how you engage those layers. Those layers start with the parcel lines, and added to that, you can tap to turn on recent sales, which I have done. Ask the system to give me recent sales in the last 48 months. The legend at the bottom builds as I turn these layers on. Notice that the shades or the colors across the map indicate what sales price or range for those properties in the last 48 months. So I can quickly reference that this orange, if you will, color represents properties that sold for more than $250,000 in the last 48 months, because that's what I turned on here. As I scroll down, I also notice that I have turned on the listings, and inside of the listings, I've turned on those properties that are active. I've also turned on solds, pendings, and expireds. Across the map, you see those Paragon indicators, those properties that are sold, for sale, pending, and expired across the map. Now, if you left click, you're able to see again additional data details, links back to the MLS report. I always say where I am, Bob isn't far behind. He usually is to my left or my right, making it very, very easy to gain access to the MLS to see additional information. Anywhere on the map, don't forget, left clicking gets you more data. As I scroll down, keep in mind that we can add additional labels. Common question that comes into our group is, why does that look grayed out? Why does it look like I don't have access to deeded acreage or system calculated acreage? It is indeed grayed out. What it's asking you for is to step into the map. Everything I've got, I give to you. There's nothing you need to upgrade to or pay for. In this instance, everything that CRS Data has been made available to you. So in this instance, just remember, use your plus key in the upper right-hand corner and pan in to then allow deeded acreage, system calculated acreage, along with owner names, property addresses, and parcel IDs, as well as last sales date and price, to be layered as well on the map. If I pan back out again, it will turn those layers in that fashion where it looks like you can't turn them on. All right. Scrolling down just a bit further, understand that I've also turned on the FEMA flood zones, and the FEMA flood zones will come up across the map and the legend will coordinate that layer. So I always know what I've got turned on and what's available to me. As I turn some of these layers off or on, you're going to utilize what makes most sense to you. And of course, you could turn them all on at one time and it not be a problem, but obviously you only want to turn on what you're looking for in this instance. Now, if I pan way out and I want to move around the map a bit, I can turn on additional layers that work better when I'm panned quite far out. And notice that my subject property is indicated by that subject property teardrop, if you will. I can then turn on things like school zones. Something new to the system is school information. When I tap on school information, I can turn on and see the high school zones as well as locations. I can also turn on middle school zones and locations. Not only that, but elementary. Based on what your needs are, you can layer this information on, okay? And it gives you a great resource to see what those zones are and where those school locations are. Let's turn a few of those back off again. It's all about navigation, understanding what the CRS map layers are, and then getting the information, not just on a property report, but getting or gaining that information on the map so that then you can provide that level of information to your client. If your client's visual, they're really going to appreciate that. All right. Let's not forget that if it's topo maps you desire, turn them on, utilize those. If you know how to read them, then I want you to know you have access to them. Not only that, but zip codes, always very helpful in this situation as well. So we're going to carve out where the zip codes are, and then we're going to place the zip code in the center of that area. Now, I know that we're going to get into CMAs. I didn't want to not show you the maps because maps are important. Don't forget, down the left-hand panel, just feeding you more information on utilizing these maps mean that you know that gear means that you can change your view. We've already covered that, but just know using the gear can change your view here. Knowing that you can turn on and off dimensions and shading. You can even measure or draw or identify data beyond the parcel lines by drawing using polygons, rectangles, and radiuses here. And even being able to measure parcels, distance, as well as area. You've got the tools. Just take the time to navigate and understand how to better utilize those, or make a decision that makes sense, that this is going to be your choice from this point moving forward. Now back to my property report. And when I do, let's talk CMAs. Now I'm going to show you very quickly what the CMA does and how you utilize that with CRS data today. As I scroll across the top of the screen, remember, we are and have been talking about the property report. Moving into a CMA is as easy as tapping on comparables, and then the system goes ahead and directs us into that CMA. Know that this is an auto comp, and an auto comp just basically means I'm taking a few fields, a very limited number of parameters to find for you comps in the area that qualify as good properties, or properties at a glance are good. We all know that the best CMA is created with your hands, your knowledge, and your know-how. I'm just a data geek. I just bring you the data, and the data is not what creates that great CMA. You knowing the area, approaching the data, and then going in and refining or molding the CMA. That's what gives what your clients need. All right. So just the data here, bringing me 28 comps and breaking it down by the estimated market price based on the average cost per square foot, the house price index, as well as the average sales price divided by the tax appraisal ratio. Then, of course, you see it, right? The Zillow approach as well. All of these approaches can be removed based on what you want to do because you're in control here. It's not me. I'm not doing this for myself or for my neighbor or for my friend. I'm not claiming to be a real estate professional. You now are going to take the data and mold it to what you need it to be. Scrolling down, you'll notice that the home improvement adjustments has been added and has been inside of CRS quite a while. We moved it over into the CMA a few years ago. What this is, it's generated by Metro Study, which is a Handley Wood company. It's cost versus value. Seller, decided to add a deck. Maybe it's not been assessed by the clerk or the assessor. Maybe we don't know what it's worth. Potentially, right? You want to be able to take that into account. So using the home improvement adjustment allows me to go in there and do a composite deck addition. And I'm able to tell my real estate professional I spent about $15,000 on it. That wasn't all me. Everybody said that I needed all these outdoor units for heat, and I needed a place for a brick oven, and I needed to be able to do pizza on the go, etc. I submit that and I get a return of investment of 77%. So I can add $11,550 to my price when doing the CMA. Look to the top of the breakdown and see that now I have a home improvement value where I have added that $11,550 to the average cost per square foot to now have a different approach. Maybe my response is, now, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, I can sell your house for $450, $795, no glasses on, right? That may have been close, because now I've added that $11,550 to the price. And now this is what I can do, but I can tell you, I may be able to sell it faster because everybody in the neighborhood's added a deck. Yours may have been passed over because it didn't have that great outdoor space, and now it does. So you apply anything that makes sense here. Scrolling down, why not have those photos? We pull them from Paragon. We post them for the minute that you need to see them. So they come over, they're pulled up, and you're able to pan through the photos. You're able to hover or stall over the property data details to get more data details. You're able to open up and see a full size of the map. And you know this toolbar. Who doesn't love a bar graph? I like them, right? I'm pretty certain though, if I was doing my job, which I'm telling you how to use my program, I'm not trying to claim to be a real estate professional. This should look less like a lie detector report, right? I am not where I need to be. So now I can review search parameters and modify. Right now it's property type. I need to add improvement type and land use. I need to compare apples to apples. And to do that, I need to not leave anything out. If it is a residential property zoned for small animals, or if it's a residential property and it's zoned to have a small business, maybe a little egg hut out front, and you're able to sell some cakes and cookies and a few eggs now and then you want to make sure that your improvement type is called out accurately, right? This is the way you do that. Plus or minus 1 bedroom and plus or minus 1 bath, along with acreage and square footage, plus or minus 20%. All things can be adjusted. You're the person running or ruling this CMA. You're going to make that decision. The distance is just under a mile, and 2 can be edited, along with the sales date in the last 12 months. By tapping the down arrow, folks, you can absolutely modify what that distance is. And you know better than me, out in this area, whether you're going towards Bend or Prineville or some of the outskirts, there are wide open spaces. You may need to go much further than a mile to get what you need as far as a CMA. Some things to note here. We're bringing you the properties that I looked at as great comps. I'm giving you the ability to hover and stall over Bob. He's always there. I have made that super clear. And you know what properties are in the MLS. You also now know, just like in property on line 3, there are properties that don't sell through your MLS. There are neighboring MLSs, they're for sale by owners. There are other types of transfers of ownership. Doesn't mean they don't qualify as a great property on your CMA. So we bring those to you because we're not only bringing in properties that sold through tax records, through the clerk and the assessor, but also marking the ones that sold through the MLS. Now, just to not take this too much further, but note that you can drag and drop and decide what columns and what data you're going to compare, so that you can throw out those that are too small or too big or too old or too new. Whether or not they're too tall as being 1-story versus a ranch, you're going to do that comparison. And then when you're done, you can go down and you can check the ones you want to remove or check the ones you want to keep, all then to email, save to PDF, or print the CMA. Pretty simple, but one last thing on the CMA, sometimes the visual does a world of good. Being able to go and draw using a polygon and telling the system where you want your comps to come from, especially when you're talking about an area around Lake Oswego. You can tap to include the selection so that the system can remove properties outside of your polygon. So that when it does change the price approach. It changes the properties that you're going to utilize, and my bar graph is quickly affected, as well as the comps I'm pulling down. Now, take that one step further, and I won't go too far here, is that custom comparables, it is really easy to define what that is. If your property isn't a planned unit development, if your property is unlike every other property in and around the area, and you need to take a custom approach, utilize this approach the way you decided between simple and advanced search. Understand that I am going to give you what looks again like an application for employment, giving you access to location data, as well as property values, property characteristics, along with everything you can possibly think about you want to compare. So we are back to using things like a property type. And in some cases, if I've got front elevation, if it's brick or stucco, I'm going to bring that into account. So you've got a ton of information, the ability to add specific properties to this CMA, all just a different approach from an auto comp to a custom comp. You decide what kind of house are you doing a CMA on. Let's go ahead and finish up today with giving you prospecting. Prospecting is an approach that you can determine what it is you want to prospect for and who do you want to prospect to, so that you can utilize the data effectively. So CRS is going to allow you to prospect using all the great data you have at the tips of your fingers. So 2 ways to prospect, folks. Whether or not you want to prospect in a wide net approach, or whether or not you want to prospect around the property that you've recently sold or listed. Either way, you can do that. It's just a matter of where do you want to start? What makes most sense? Let me explain, or let me show you at least where you start. If you're at the home screen or that simple search screen, you can and have the ability to tap on prospecting, right? We've been doing a lot of property searching. We've been doing CMAs. Now let's talk about the other tab. The other tab, clearly marked as prospecting, gives you the ability to take a wide net approach. When I tap on prospecting from the simple search screen, or anywhere within the product for that matter, I open up prospecting above the map. So it identifies where I'm more likely or most likely to search. So I've got 3 counties. I've been in Clackamas, Deschutes. Either way, couple of things to remember, just like from the beginning, you can go to profiles and settings and you can tell the system where you're most likely to search. It's your territory, market. Or you can do nothing and let CRS data become sticky. And then when you access a simple search screen or you access prospecting, you'll notice that those counties just appear in that box because it's become sticky. If I'm only in Clackamas County, then it's only going to show Clackamas County. If I go into profiles and settings and put 3 or 4 counties in there by default, then every time I go to search or start prospecting or do any of these types of activities, it's going to show up where I most likely search or what I've put in for my profiles and settings. So either way, just keep that in mind. So this opens up the map centered over top of the counties that I'm most likely working in. And then from there, everything is the same. Again, you're over top of the map and it's going to be the exact same process with exception to I'm not at a property, I'm above the map in a certain area that I'm most likely to be found prospecting in. Go back to the property search. And now let's do it the other way. Let's do it like I'm standing in the front yard of the property I just sold. I've got a megaphone and I want to tell everybody that I sold the house 1 or 2 hours after it went on the market for 1, 12, or maybe 15% above asking price. I'm Nikki Realtor and you need me to work for you. So I'm going to tap on the property that I just sold, and it's time for me to do just that. Announce who I am and why you need to call me. As I scroll down, I know that I'm at a property report because we became very familiar with this throughout today's presentations. I know that I can utilize the property report. I know I can do a quick CMA. I can even do a custom CMA. While I'm at it, I can pull facts and figures. But before I go, the one thing we haven't talked about is, what if I just sold this house? What if I want to go out and introduce myself to this neighborhood, to the rest of the individuals that live in Lakeview Villas, and I want them to know that if they too need to sell their house, I'm their realtor. I can tap on prospecting inside of this property report without going out of it, and now prospecting looks just a bit different. Prospecting now identifies the subject property with a teardrop, notifying me that I'm standing in the front yard of that house. And now instead of wide net prospecting, I'm prospecting as far as I can reach with a center of the front yard of that house. All right, let's get started. I see a map. Sure, I may want to use that map, and keep in mind the small arrows that point off to the left and the right allow me to open up the map if I prefer start with a map. There's no rules here. If I want to start drawing on the map, turning on layers and identifying information, I can do it. If I'd rather change my view, draw, even center myself or pan in or out, I can do it all from that toolbar that we've talked about today. Little difference here, slightly, right? It is and does the same things. It just acts a bit differently here. If I don't want to start with the map, I can minimize and just go back to the original format, which allows me to work from left to right. Now notice that not only did I change the fact that I'm standing in the front yard and my property is indicated, you notice that Clackamas County now is the only county in my search box because my subject property is in Clackamas County. So it knows that if I say, let's start from the subject property, that clearly I want to start my prospecting in the county that my subject property is at. Now, from there, I can start to add additional criteria or additional filters. So owner names, addresses, and subdivisions, if I tap and start to type, just like you're used to, CRS does what? The heavy lifting. You type and hold, and I'm going to respond with potential matches. It's as simple as that. So I typed lake, I give you owner names, I give you streets, I also give you subdivisions. Notice that I give you starts with subdivisions or contains. So I'm giving you both options. Do a search starts with or contains, either way. As I scroll down a little further, someone said to me earlier, we talked about looking for a subject property, and we even talked about there may be a listing agent that works in this area that focuses on multi-million-dollar properties or properties that are what my buyers are looking for. Maybe I have investors coming in and there is a specific construction style or property type that they're always looking for. And if I wanted to prospect for those homes using a listing agent that lists those homes, I could add in a listing agent name. Maybe it's a subdivision and a listing agent, which would equal what I was looking for and would refine my prospecting in a very unique and creative way. CRS is going to let you do that. So from here, I can start to make selections. I like to do subdivisions starting with the word lake and seeing very quickly that, yep, once again, my map reacts. My map starts to plot properties on the map that meet my search criteria, which at this point is very simple. In subdivisions that start with the word lake inside of Clackamas County. My subject property is still indicated with the teardrop in the center of the map. I know that I have, let's see if I can move the little toolbar to show you that just by that little bit of definition, by starts with the word lake, in Clackamas County, I've got 2,231 properties. I don't have to know anything about Oregon to be able to do this, right? It makes anybody have the ability to uncover and discover how to prospect, how to promote yourself, or look for buyers and sellers with very little information. Beyond that, I could go in and type that word lake again and go in and add owner names. I could go in and add a street. I could even go as far as go in and add, if I didn't get Lake Forest, I want it. So if in fact I need to add additional information, I can, and the map will continue to update. Now, beyond that, let's talk about filters. Let's talk about the fact that I've got 2,231 properties, and now I want to go through and filter those accordingly. What type of filters can I engage? Well, there's a ton of them, so get ready. Boundaries, why not? Zip codes, sure. As I turn on zip codes, you'll notice that my map has responded. Looks like there's a lot of boundaries out there, and the boundaries we've labeled are zip codes. As I hover or stall over top of each of the actual areas that are designated, it's going to give me the zip code. So if I knew visually where I wanted to be, but I didn't know what zip code coordinated with that area, I could go in and I could check the box to refine the boundary by zip code. So I could identify what zip codes I wanted to focus on or wanted to refine my results by. So again, don't be afraid to pan across that map and let the system show you. Just because you live here doesn't mean you know everything about, like zip codes. There's a ton of those. Let us do that heavy lifting. Let us show you where those zip codes are, and then you refine your results by zip code. I displayed zip codes very simply by turning on that layer. I can go ahead and tap to close it down to make those or allow those to disappear. The same way I would school zones. My client has an elementary school person, little one in their house, as well as a middle school and a high school. I need to identify where those elementary schools are and what those elementary schools are. Notice not only did we react the same way as we did with the zip codes, but as I hover across, it's showing me what school is in what area. So now I have a visual on my subject property and the surrounding properties, and I also can hover and see what elementary schools are out there. Again, as simple as checking the elementary school that you want to refine or update your results by is easy at that point, because now I don't need to sit down with a map. I'm giving you the map and giving you the information, and it displays based on what your needs are. If I close this down, once again, those layers go away, and I'm not looking at anything but a clean map with 2,231 properties. Now let's review some additional filters we can utilize. MLS listing statuses to refine by what's currently listed or active or sold, or remove all active listings. It's as easy as checking the box. Let's remember, owner types are important. Do we want to refine by the owners that are absentee, out of state, or owner occupied? Keep in mind, all of these things empower you with the information you're looking for. Ownership duration. The ownership duration is 5 years. Could those individuals that have been in that home 5 years in a first-time buyer's neighborhood or area now be in need of a larger home? They started with fur babies, right? The dogs, the cats, the all types of animals nowadays, right? And now they're ready for babies, or maybe they're ready for bigger animals, right? You started off with a small dog, and now it's time for a big dog, and we need to have an electric fence, all these things. These are things that when someone's been in a home 5 years, it might be time to revisit that conversation. So ownership duration, how does that work? And what would you do? And how would you refine or approach or bring new buyers and sellers to you based on ownership duration? How about appraised value along with property type? Remember, there are 2,231 properties here. If I'm looking for residential only, I want to make sure I refine by residential only. And now that I have added residential, I'm down to 2,149. Very, very simple to refine. Recent sales. If this property or these properties just sold in the last 6 months, it's highly likely you're wasting your postage or your reach to them, right? If they just moved in and their boxes aren't unpacked, it may be safe to say they're not ready to do it again. You never know, right? You may want your postcard then to say, I see you've recently moved into your house, and at some point when you're ready to buy again, I'd like you to consider me in the future. Maybe that's a way to prospect. Either way, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be, let me list your house after you just moved in. Last sales date and price, always you may want to refine. Mortgage age. I've been in my house 20 plus years, it may be time, or I may be more willing to talk to you or consider going ahead and moving on, doing something different, going from a 2-story to a 1-story. If my mortgage is more than 20 years old, it's highly likely that I'm invested, but I might be ready to go ahead and, flip and go to a different model for home ownership. So use that mortgage age. Cash buyers, always a good idea if in fact you want to look for and see who in the market has been known or would be willing to be considered as far as a cash buyer. Land use, right down to improvement type land use, commercial, general, whether it's residential, agricultural, farmland. Again, depending on what you're doing, we're offering you all directives because from what I understand, all our MLS members are not necessarily just residential real estate professionals. We are doing a lot of different things, wearing a ton of hats, and we all have our own specialty. So why not give you what you need all in one spot? As we continue to scroll down, improvement type, along with total building square footage, all those filters you're used to seeing, along with acreage and even vacant land only. I always tell you, you'll have an easy button on that because if you're looking for land and you found the building materials to build on that land, then we want to help you find it, okay? Year built, again, could very well be a reason to, or a reason to refine based on year built, then you can do that here. Now, with all of that said, it really is going to take you playing with this to determine how you would take a prospecting tool like this and utilize it, change what you do and how you do it, and uncover something that you didn't have access to before. Now, we're at 2,149 results currently. Now, I said to you, use the map if you choose. Now, I utilize the left-hand panel. Now I've moved into the map so that I can draw if I want to exclude or include a certain area. If I wanted to minimize my results here and I wanted to draw a polygon and say include the selection, or maybe I want to exclude a small selection. Either way, you can do that by drawing a polygon on this map or a rectangle or a radius to remove or exclude or to include a certain area or shape, all right? Either way, it's really up to you. And when that does that, you see that it is zoomed in based on my measurement, and I can now hover or stall over property data details. We've talked about that. I might have said that 50 times today because I want you to know that I don't need you to click. I don't need you to enter. I want you to know that if you need more, I know it just by you hovering. I'm working with you here, making it as simple as possible. And then knowing that if the property you've hovered over top of is also in the MLS, you'll have links to the MLS. As property clusters, or as you get closer to properties and clusters break apart, you'll be able to hover over additional properties and get additional details. If you want to zoom in even further, you can. If you want to zoom out or change your view, all possible from here. When you're ready, you can look for your data and you can print it, export it in a CSV file, or print or create your labels. It's really up to you what you want to do here. But before you do, let's remember that all the way over at the right, we're down to 70 properties just based on what I did. All right. And now we have to remember, we're always going to have the legend. I always said Bob is close, never too far. So when I hover over legend, I'm reminded of what those legends look like. What do I see if it's active? What do I see if it's sold? Just to remind us, right? So if we're looking through this list, what is the shape and the color of the properties that are an active lease? What does it look like if it's expired or pending? Just so I have a visual, all right? To export the data is easy, but not before we remember that this list is just the starting point. Always, if there are check boxes, that means I can check properties. And what can I do? I can always remove, or I can always check to keep. Whatever's easier, again, where your time is valuable, and I don't want to forget that. So check the ones you want, or check the ones you want to remove, whatever's an easier option. Remove by page. If you've got 18 pages and you want to remove a page at a time, feel free to do that as well. Look through and review and decide. Hover and still get those links back to Paragon, knowing that Bob is always directly to my right or my left, knowing that these are links back into the MLS, mean that you can get to his data. I'm always going to keep that very, very close. When I'm ready, I can tap to export the data back to that 58 fields of data or more. Do you want it all? You can have every bit of it. Do you want to minimize or change or edit the fields that you're getting? Then tap on edit fields and know that the columns and the data will come up, allowing you to choose which sections or what data you want. And this is going to export this data into a CSV file. You can use that for Excel or your CRM products. Choose the field you want and go in and modify that the way you want the data. If we're ready and we want to go in and create labels, it's as easy as tapping on create labels. And when I do, I'm going to just go through some assumptions I've made. I've assumed that you'd like to skip records with no zip code. I've assumed that you want to remove exact duplicates. I've assumed that we're going to skip those records with no zip +4. I'm doing first name first and then owner's address. I'm going to include a line for a title, right? A title line, Mr. or Mrs. I'm going to go ahead and include a line for current resident. You can modify any of these assumptions. I'm just starting off with what makes most sense as far as in my world, but your world could be quite different. So these are assumptions that can be changed and you can modify. I don't want you to duplicate your labels. I don't want you to use your labels if in fact it's easier for me to take out what makes most sense. All right. I can replace name with current resident. And then finally, as simple as it sounds, looking at a sheet of labels, determining what label type you've got in your hand, knowing it could be Avery or it could be a version of Avery. By turning it over, they typically identify what it is most similar to as far as the layout. They could be from Target, Walmart, Office Depot, Office Max, wherever you pick up your labels, but you want to identify what layout you've got. And then it's all about what label do you want to start printing on. Oftentimes when I come into offices like these, I'm reminded of my years at the North Carolina Association of Realtors where we shared printers, right? And I was always asking someone to help me line up my labels. I was forever printing them up upside down on the back side, on the wrong side, printing them where a label didn't exist. And now it's as simple as tapping on the label where I want it to print so that I don't have to line it up. So I don't have to ask a neighbor to help me line it up or modify the way it's going to print. So I can tap to select the label and then simply decide whether it's a Word document or a PDF I'd like to use, knowing whether or not I may want to modify. We all know the drill here. Then creating the labels. And as simple as it sounds, because it is simple, but it's powerful to be able to utilize data in this fashion. We come up, our labels appear, and I'm ready to throw them to the printer. And I know that they're lined up exactly the way I want them. So prospecting, it's simple. Thank you for your time today, knowing that time is money. And I hope that you uncovered something today that's going to save you time, that will make you money and allow me to be part of the solution.